Hello, everyone, and welcome to Five Rivers Podcast, sponsored by Heald. I am your host today, Amber Smith. I am a fitness and nutrition coach. Been doing it for 14 years. And today I am thrilled to welcome an inspiring guest onto the podcast, Danica. Danica was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at just 14. Danica has faced the challenges of managing her health head on while leading an incredible, active, and fulfilling life. She has not only completed a marathon, but is also diving back into her love of volleyball. When she's not playing sports or active, you can find her traveling, spending quality time with friends, and advocating for diabetes awareness. Through her business, Dialogue, the Insulin for Your Soul, Danica supports diabetes research, combining her entrepreneurial spirit with her passion for helping others. Her resilience, positivity, and dedication to living life to the fullest makes her story one you don't want to miss. Danica, welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thanks so much, Amber. I'm excited to be here.
All right, so today I definitely want to dive into some things. For an icebreaker, so let the guests know one lifestyle habit that they think that is most underrated in managing diabetes.
The most underrated habit that I've found is really reviewing your data, just going through and looking at it. Because without knowing why or seeing if there's something that you could do, it could be your sleep, could be your rest, could be your water intake. But if you were chronically high for 3 days or chronically low for 3 days, or you're just in this roller coaster, there might be other things outside of just giving yourself insulin to help you through it. So just looking at the data that you're able to see is the best habit I've found, and it's completely underrated.
Nice. So with the data, what are you using for this data to monitor?
So this could be anything from my continuous glucose monitor to if I'm still doing manual blood sugar checks, or it could be how much insulin I'm administrating over time. It could be your basal rate. So all those little factors add up along with your hours of sleep, how much water, how much food, your nutrition. There's so much data that we make for our own bodies. And I don't think it's really taught how to look at it and think of yourself holistically. But looking at those little pieces could tell you a lot. It might be like, oh, this one little thing could change or make me feel
Yeah.
better all the time. So let's
Yeah.
let's look at these things.
So as an African American woman, we both know that it is prevalent in our community. So let's talk about the diversity in healthcare and the impact that diabetes has.
Absolutely. Diversity and health equity are big, big pieces and passions of mine. I wear many hats outside of just being diabetic and advocating for diabetes, but I also work in healthcare full time on the administration side as well. And just being able to have that representation, not just with your clinicians, but with the people that are making the choices of what options you have in your communities. Is there a hospital? Is there other thing? There you have to have not just diverse people, but diverse thinking. And when it comes to managing diabetes or someone living with diabetes and thinking of that as a community, it's much further. If you've never seen a provider that looks like you, they don't have that lived experience. Might not even have that lived experience of being human like you. It's a different it's a different ballgame. And I think it's just crucial because there's a lack of it.
Yeah, I definitely feel you on that. Like in underserved communities, it's kind of hard for us to get to these providers and these professionals. Not only that, but the educational part, like we do not know where to go or how do we navigate these, to overcome these adversities that we are already facing being an underserved community.
Yes, and even in some of those areas where it's like, okay, like you're talking about nutrition, there are some cultural foods that are very important. Like you can't just go in and say, hey, you can't have that. No, there's things with moderation. Like there's gotta be, and it's like when you
Hmm.
don't have to go and explain something that's already culturally important to you, it goes a long way. It's like, oh, I'm not just a number. I'm not just a patient. This person cares about me. This person knows my interests. This person knows that this is what living with diabetes can look like for me.
Yeah, culturally, like you said, like that's a big thing. Like if you can't relate to what I'm eating or what is at hand in my community, then how can you really help me? Because you telling me to go to like Whole Foods or Trader Joe's, that is not in my community for those who are, underserved. So it's like, what can I do otherwise? And like, can you give me an examples like of things like that may not be at your access, and how do you navigate that? Because you travel a lot, and
Hmm.
that's not going to always be the case where you have a perfect scenario of, oh, I'm going to have a perfect, well balanced meal. Can you tell me a little bit more how you navigate
Yep.
those
No, it's
issues?
if I'm in the States or beyond, it's different. I can be in a big city, I can be in a rural area, and it's different, but it's knowing how to navigate, knowing how to look. It's like there might not be a grocery store, there might just be a Dollar Tree or a Dollar General. Knowing how to go and say, there's only processed food, there's only something packaged, or I can only afford this, or I can only go to McDonald's. Learning how to make healthy choices in any environment, I think, is the key here. But making sure you're doing that and it's not a negative way, and in a way that's like, hey, this is what you have access to. It's like not saying, hey, go to the farmer's market, but saying, hey, these are vegetables and they can fuel your body this way. Or if you're going to eat a Pop Tart, this is a Pop Tart. But you need to make sure you're giving yourself enough insulin for this, and it might not fill you fully in this way. So you might want to do a Pop Tart with a string cheese. These little
Mm,
pieces and giving yourself a little access to it. It's not just saying, hey, you need to go and get everything green. It's like, hey, this is what you have. Let's make sure that it's balanced, that we can help you find balance with what you have access to. And even if it's bare minimum or whatever is there, there's ways that you can make healthy choices in every moment. But it's really making sure you have the representation in that community to educate on it and to make sure that the health literacy side of it is available too.
nice. So I do want to backtrack a little bit
Yes.
because I did mention that you were diagnosed at 14. Like that's life changing and kind of almost devastating to a certain extent. Like you're a teenager and you're finding out like, oh, I really have to start taking care of my health. Like I want to be a kid and I want to play. Like that's pretty serious. So how did you navigate like learning more about your diagnosis and just, getting better at it with taking care of yourself?
It took me a while. I'm 100%. I'm an open book. I share everything because I am not a perfect diabetic. There is no such thing as a perfect diabetic. But at
Yeah.
14, I was not all about my diabetes. I was all about playing basketball and hanging out with my friends. And I knew how
Yeah.
to get my parents and my doctors off my back by being healthy. I don't even think I understood what health was at that time. It's a word that's just like thrown around, but I learned how
Mm-hmm.
to manage my insulin, how to check my blood sugar. I was awful at checking my blood sugar. This is back when all I had access to is a finger stick to check my glucose levels. They wanted me to do that 8 to 10
Yeah.
times a day. No, like you're with your friends, you're practicing. So it's like I was just going off a feeling for a long time. And it took
Yeah.
me, I had to grow up really quickly. I did not have the
Mm.
luxury of making the same mistakes as people in my peer group. I couldn't forget something at home. I could not be prepared for a low. I couldn't not do all these things. So I had to always learn how to be proactive and prep. And my mom, big testament to my mom and my dad, they were very involved and they helped me. But they didn't know a lot about this either. And it was one of those things like when I was
Mhm.
diagnosed, I had a doctor who left. So by the time I went for my 3 month checkup, I had to start commuting 2.5 hours away just to see someone that could
Wow.
administer care for me. So then it became I really don't like diabetes already. And now it's taking me further away from my sports and my friends. And it's like I'm missing class, I'm missing school. And I have to, on top of it, be responsible and make sure that I'm doing the basics of what I need to do just to function every day. It was a lot. It's a lot to put on anybody at any age. But as a teenager, you already have a lot going on and you have your hormones, which already impacts all this
Oh God.
already. It was just it was something that I learned that I could do hard things, and I had the support of my community and beyond to help me. But it was a different type of community. It was just like the community I had before I was diabetic.
Yeah. Nice, nice. I just couldn't imagine because I have kids that are teenagers, and I just see how crazy the lifestyle is and where their mindset is. So like big ups to your mom. We'll do anything for our kids, and I'm glad, like, so how, as you became like a college student, how did that, like, did it get worse? Because that's when you get introduced to drinking, right?
Yep. Oh, it got worse, but it's like I knew I couldn't make the mistakes. I knew I didn't have the recovery
Hmm.
time. So I was very, very cautious. And I did a lot of education, but there wasn't a lot of information out there because people weren't talking about the things that college students go through when they're living with a chronic condition like diabetes. And it was one of those, like, it's trial and error, unfortunately. But even to this day, it's
Mm,
like I just had to learn how to listen to my body and know that I know my body best. And just because other people are doing something doesn't mean that I can do it. Doesn't mean that I can't, but it's like I had to make these decisions for myself and what was best for me in those moments. And going through that piece, it still was like, no, I do not want to check my glucose all the time. I don't want to be that person
yeah.
going to the bathroom or at a party, stopping to check my blood sugar seat just to do it, to fill out a
Mm,
chart. It's like I did it more so when I felt that I needed to, which of course my providers were anti that. But that's the reality of it. It's like
mm.
that's taking 8 to 10 times me stopping my life to check something
That's a lot.
when I feel okay. Didn't make sense to me. It did not click when I was
Mm,
an adolescent and then into young adulthood because I was just like, this doesn't make sense. I feel good. I'm fine. When I don't feel good, I check myself and I'm like, okay, let me
yeah.
make it correct. But not understanding the impact of chronic highs or overtime highs
Mm,
or overtime lows and having them all the time and seeing how that could do things to my body in the long run, that was not even top of mind. That was just, okay, whatever. Like, I don't want to be scared that I'm going to lose a limb or I'm going to do this. Like,
yeah.
that scarce, like,
Yeah.
tactic that used to be very standard. I didn't buy it.
Hmm.
I just didn't buy it. I was like, I know that I'm good. I feel good. I'm in somewhat a range and I'm out here living a life and I'm not letting diabetes stop me.
And this month, Heald is doing a special campaign. The special campaign is to celebrate this festive season of the gift of good health from Heald. This holiday season, take care of your health or gift your loved ones a program to reverse diabetes and lose weight. Use the code HEALEDXMAS to get 10% off. That's HELDXMAS to get 10% off.